A Republican candidate just tried to embarrass a Democratic mayor on live television, and it backfired spectacularly. Steve Hilton thought he had the perfect attack line, mocking San Jose Mayor Matt Mahon for praising Gavin Newsom's homelessness record and making it personal on stage. And then Mahon dropped the hammer. Steve, you came to San Jose just a week ago to see what's working because we've been reducing unsheltered homelessness faster than any other city in the state. 1 week. Hilton was literally in San Jose 7 days earlier studying Mahon's exact programs, and then got on a debate stage and attacked him for it. This is California politics at its finest. Let's take a look.
The thing he most admires about Gavin Newsom is his record on homelessness. You've got to be kidding, Matt.
That's your time, Mr. Hilton. Mayor Mahan, 30 seconds to respond to Mr. Hilton.
Well, first I'll just note that, Steve, you came to San Jose just a week ago to see what's working in San Jose because we've been reducing unsheltered homelessness faster. We've been reducing unsheltered homelessness faster than any other city in the state. And last week, Steve came to see what's working in our interim housing communities and with our outreach model. And I don't know what's changed in the last week, but it seems that it's the fact that I jumped into this race. And frankly, that's exactly wrong with our politics in all seriousness, is that an idea is good one day until the other side.
Time on your rebuttal, sir. Go ahead on your answer.
I still have a minute, so thank you. I'll continue with the point, which is what's wrong with our politics is when we denigrate ideas because of who had them. And the truth is, there are gaps on all sides of this issue. I ran for office because of the same concerns that were raised in that audit. I saw us spending $1 million a door, taking 6 years to build housing for people on our streets. We don't have that kind of time to wait. We have thousands of people literally out on our streets, many dying, thousands dying per year. In San Jose, what we've done is we've gotten back to basics. We've built basic, dignified shelter. We do thoughtful outreach. When shelter's available, we make every effort to require that people come indoors to connect them to services. We created those dashboards that track utilization, cost per outcome, and create greater accountability for spending our precious dollars to help people turn their lives around. And we could do a lot more if the state got every city and county to do the same.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Steyer, homelessness.
So I think one of the things people forget sometimes about homelessness is that only about 1 in 7 people who hit the street and are unhoused have some serious form of mental health condition, either substance abuse or bipolar or whatever. But being on the street itself is so stressful, it's so destructive, it's so dangerous that it puts everybody in a position of developing serious mental health problems. And that leads me to a very straightforward, answer to this question is we need to keep people off the street. It's most important to keep people off the street. And if they end up on the street, to get them off the street as fast as possible. And that's why I do support the kinds of things like emergency interim housing, not trying to get people to go to shelters they don't want to go to, but to places they do want to go, because waiting 6 years is just too long. And the last thing I want to say is the reason these housing is so expensive is partially the fees that everyone keeps talking about. Yes. But those fees are because the cities can't afford the health and education costs of the people who are moving there. And I will solve that with revenues.
Thank you, candidates. Andre.
Let's talk about the issue of public safety, which crime falls under. 2 years ago, California voters approved Prop 36, increasing penalties for repeat theft and drug offenses. As governor, would you fund Prop 36? If so, how? And would you incorporate prevention and restorative justice efforts? Villaraigosa, we will start with you on this one.
I grew up in a pretty violent neighborhood. And when I became mayor of Los Angeles, LA was the most violent big city in America. We grew the police department. We dramatically expanded after-school programs and summer youth jobs. We developed innovative prevention and intervention programs that Obama took to Central America. We have to address the fact that in our cities, we've had too much crime, and particularly in neighborhoods, communities of color. But we need a policy that focuses on redemption, a policy on restorative justice. And as governor, I'll do that. Yes, we have to fund the drug treatment in Prop 36, and I will as governor. Yes, we have to look at juvenile justice, as I did when I was speaker and passed the most far-reaching juvenile justice program in the United States of America. And yes, we got to get the guns off the streets of California cities.
Mayor, thank you so much. Ms. Yee, what are your thoughts? Would you fund Prop 36 and incorporate restorative justice efforts?
Yes, we definitely should be increasing our drug treatment capacity. If we have a provision for felony mandated treatment, we should have the treatment available in every jurisdiction. So I do support that. But I also want to know that when that treatment ends and offenders have completed their sentence, they have the ability to return to their communities. And so this is also an economic issue. We have to be sure that they have opportunities to return back to. And so when I think about public safety, it's a partnership. It's a partnership between law enforcement and the community about how we're going to deal with some of the underlying determinants of what leads people to actually commit crimes. And so restorative justice is a big piece of this, but let's be sure that we have the treatment that we promised through Prop 36 built throughout the state.
Secretary Becerra, would you fund Prop 36? How? And would you incorporate restorative justice?
I voted for Prop 36. I will make sure we fund Prop 36. The people of California spoke clearly. They want us to take this on, and they want us to fund the services that Prop 36 calls for. Otherwise, we are going backwards. We are just treating those offenders as people we're going to incarcerate. And so here's what we will do. We will find the revenue. And if we don't have it, then we will go get it, because we cannot afford to shortchange this program. We want to give those individuals who are caught in this trap a chance to get to the right place in community. And so we must fund mental health services. We must fund addiction treatment. I started, when I was Secretary of Health and Human Services, a program called 988. It is the line that you can call for suicide and mental health challenges. And it is working. Tens of millions of people have now gone to that line in the last 3 or 4 years. I started a program under Medi-Cal, which allows those who are offenders who are on the verge of being released to actually have health care through Medi-Cal before they're released, so when they re-enter, they're not without their health care. Those are the things that make it possible for people to land well.
Thank you so much. Mr. Hilton, would you fund Prop 36, and would you include restorative justice in pushing it forward?
I would very much fund Prop 36. In fact, one of the authors of Prop 36, Jeff Reisig, the DA of Yolo County, is a strong supporter of my campaign, and we've spoken in detail about what's going wrong and what needs to be fixed on that. And I agree with Antonio, by the way, on everything he said about prevention programs. It's incredibly important. I've worked on those kinds of programs for many, many years, written about them in my books. He's absolutely right about that. But we also have to make something clear when it comes to this question of public safety. We have to enforce the law in California. We're very good, it seems, at passing laws, not so good at enforcing them. And there's one big thing that the next governor needs to do. We have to stop this destructive prison closure program where we've had tens of thousands of dangerous, violent criminals released into the community or transferred to county jails that are completely overwhelmed, can't cope. That means law enforcement are undermined. They know that there's going to be no accountability for crime. All that needs to change. It's very simple. More prisons, less crime. That's what we're going to do.
Mr. Hilton, thank you so much. Mayor Mahan, your thoughts on Prop 36, funding it, and restorative justice efforts.
Prop 36 was supported by nearly 70% of Californians. If we want to protect our democracy, we need to practice it here at home by implementing it, but implementing it thoughtfully and with restorative justice. You know, in our attempt to end the era of mass incarceration, we unintentionally left thousands of people to suffer and die on our streets. Prop 36 gives us a middle path, an opportunity to usher in an era of mass treatment. I've had a family member who was on the streets because of addiction. I know that it takes real intervention and a threat of consequences to help people recover. There is no recovery without accountability. And we will implement Prop 36 so that it saves lives and helps people turn their life around by connecting them to critical services.
Mayor Mahan, thank you so much. Mr. Steyer, your thoughts on Prop 36 funding it and restorative justice efforts?
I think it's important to remember where we've come from, because we came from a place of mass incarceration. We've added 24 state prisons since 1965, when we've added 4 UCs. In fact, we are coming back from a place where we were absolutely in the wrong. And in fact, the California Department of Corrections did not even have the word rehabilitation in its name for a long time. So when you ask about Prop 36, the opportunity to provide treatment as opposed to incarceration, of course we have to keep our streets and communities safe. But the fact is, we need to have step-down facilities. We need treatment, not incarceration, where it's available. We need to treat people as if they can be rehabilitated, to train them so that when they come back, they can be productive members of society. That's what Prop 36 can do if we fund it, and that's what we have to do.
Let's be absolutely clear about what just happened here. Steve Hilton, Republican commentator, former Fox News host, political outsider running as the anti-Sacramento candidate, decided to go after Matt Mahan in what he probably thought would be an easy dunk. Sorry to keep picking on Matt, but he just said in an interview that the thing he most admires about Gavin Newsom is his record on homelessness. You gotta be kidding, Matt. It's actually a decent attack line if you think about it. Newsom's homelessness record is objectively terrible. Billions of dollars spent, the problem got demonstrably worse, and it's an easy target that even Democrats struggle to defend. Except Hilton made one catastrophic mistake. He attacked the guy whose city is actually solving the problem, and who he'd personally visited to learn from just days earlier. Mahan's response was absolutely surgical. Steve, you came to San Jose just a week ago to see what's working in San Jose because we've been reducing unsheltered homelessness faster than any other city in the state. Not a month ago, not last year. 1 week ago. Hilton literally toured San Jose's interim housing communities, met with their outreach teams, studied their dashboard model tracking outcomes, and saw the results firsthand. And then 7 days later, he stood on a debate stage and mocked the exact person whose work he'd been studying like some kind of model program. That's not politics. That's amnesia with a side of hypocrisy. But Mahan wasn't done dismantling him because he pivoted to something much bigger than just defending his own record. What's wrong with our politics is when we denigrate ideas because of who had them, Mahan said. And honestly, he's absolutely right about this. An idea isn't good or bad based on who proposes it or what party they belong to. It's good or bad based on whether it actually works and delivers results for people. San Jose's model works, and the data proves it. They built basic, dignified shelter instead of waiting 6 years for perfect permanent housing. They do thoughtful outreach to connect people with services, and when shelter's available, they require people to come indoors, rather than letting them continue living on the streets. They created dashboards tracking cost per outcome, measuring utilization rates, and holding programs accountable for delivering actual results, instead of just spending money and hoping for the best. It's not revolutionary or even particularly complicated, it's just competent governance with accountability built in. And it's working better than almost anywhere else in California, which is why San Jose is reducing unsheltered homelessness faster than any other major city in the state. So when Hilton came to visit, he wasn't slumming it for optics or doing some kind of political tourism. He was genuinely learning from someone who's actually getting results while the rest of the state flounders. But then politics took over in the worst possible way. Mahan entered the governor's race and suddenly became a competitor instead of just another mayor doing good work. And suddenly the program Hilton praised on Tuesday became something to mock and attack on Thursday, because that's what you do to opponents in politics. That's exactly the problem Mahan is calling out. Ideas become weapons based on who's holding them, not whether they work or help people. Mahan nailed it when he said, "The truth is there are gaps on all sides of this issue. I ran for office because of the same concerns raised in that audit." He's talking about the state audit showing California spent $24 billion on homelessness over 5 years, and the problem got worse, not better. Nobody's hands are clean here. Not Newsom, not the legislature, not the cities, not the counties. Everyone shares responsibility for this disaster. But some places are doing better than others despite the systemic failures, and San Jose happens to be one of them. They're not spending $1 million per door like some cities. They're not waiting 6 years to build housing while people die on the streets. They're creating basic interim solutions that get people off the streets immediately and then connecting them to the services they need to stay housed. And here's the key part that separates them from everyone else. They're actually measuring outcomes and tracking who's getting housed, who's staying housed, and what it costs per person to make that happen. When something doesn't work, they change it instead of doubling down on failure. When something does work, they scale it up and replicate it in other areas. That's what actual accountability looks like, instead of just throwing money at the problem and declaring victory at press conferences. And that's what makes Hilton's attack so fundamentally absurd. He visited specifically because San Jose has figured out something that most cities haven't, and then he turned around and used it as a punchline. But let's talk about the other explosive moment in this segment that got completely overshadowed. Tony Thurmond breaking from the entire field on Prop 36. Every other candidate on that stage supports it. Every single one, Democrat and Republican alike. Prop 36 increases penalties for repeat theft and drug offenses, allows felony-mandated treatment instead of just incarceration, and it passed with nearly 70% support statewide, so politically it's a complete no-brainer to support it. Except Thurmond, the state's superintendent of public instruction, and notably the only black candidate on that stage, looked at everyone and said no. To be clear, I voted to ban private prisons in our state because they've overcriminalized black and brown people. I voted against Prop 36 because I don't support the overcriminalization of black people and brown people. Then he said something that should make everyone in California deeply uncomfortable. Let me just say it. No one should have to go to prison to get substance abuse treatment. He's absolutely right about this, and here's why. In theory, Prop 36 offers treatment instead of incarceration, which sounds progressive and compassionate. But here's the problem nobody wants to talk about. What happens when the treatment isn't actually available because counties don't fund the programs? What happens when capacity doesn't exist because we didn't build it? What happens when wait lists are 6 months long and people are sitting in jail waiting for treatment that never comes? You end up right back where we started. Mass incarceration with a progressive-sounding label slapped on it to make people feel better. Thurmond's willing to say that out loud and stand alone on a stage with 6 other candidates saying, "This is going to hurt black and brown communities disproportionately, and I won't support it even if it costs me votes." That takes genuine courage, especially when 70% of voters disagree with you and supporting it is the politically safe move. But he's not wrong about the history here, and everyone knows it. California added 24 state prisons since 1965, and in that exact same time period, we added 4 University of California campuses. 4. We chose to incarcerate our way through social problems instead of investing in education and solutions, and it systematically destroyed communities of color for generations. Prop 36 might actually be different this time. It might genuinely deliver treatment and help people turn their lives around, but Thurmond's skepticism is completely earned based on decades of broken promises. And honestly, it's genuinely refreshing to see someone refuse to pander to what's popular. Every other candidate on that stage knows the politics of this issue inside and out. Supporting Prop 36 is safe, it polls well, it makes you look tough on crime without looking cruel. Opposing it risks looking soft on crime or out of touch with voters' concerns about public safety. But Thurmond looked at the room, looked at the cameras, and said, "I don't care about the politics. This is what I believe and why I believe it." Meanwhile, Mahan's making the complete opposite case, that Prop 36 actually gives us a middle path forward. He talks about it as an opportunity to usher in an era of mass treatment instead of mass incarceration, to intervene with real help instead of just locking people up and warehousing them. He's probably right about that too, because there genuinely is a real opportunity here to do something different if we're serious about it, but only if we actually fund the treatment programs, only if we build the necessary capacity, only if we deliver on the promise instead of just passing the law and walking away. And California's track record on delivering on promises is, let's be honest, not great at all. So you've got Thurmond saying, "I don't trust this system to do right by black and brown people based on everything we've seen." And you've got Mahan saying, we can make this work if we're actually accountable and serious about outcomes. Both positions are valid, both are honest, and both reflect real lived experience with how government actually functions versus how it promises to function. That's what makes this segment so genuinely compelling to watch. Real disagreement about real stakes with real consequences, not poll-tested talking points crafted by consultants, not safe platitudes designed to offend nobody, but actual ideological tension between people who fundamentally disagree about the right approach. And then you've got Hilton right in the middle, trying to have it both ways, praising San Jose's work when he visits in private, then attacking it on stage in public when it becomes politically convenient. That's exactly the kind of cynicism that voters are completely exhausted by. It's why people don't trust politicians, why they think everyone's just playing games, why they check out of the process entirely. When you can't even be consistent from one week to the next about what you believe, why should anyone take you seriously as a leader? Like, subscribe and share this everywhere.